Welcome to this week's episode of the HumanAF podcast, inviting you to see loneliness and even aloneness as sacred if you can, as it's often unavoidable in the human experience. In this emotionally charged conversation, I offer moments of my personal journey and some pretty profound spiritual experiences that took me into the heart of what it means to be human, through moments of unexpected loss and traumatic events that showed me the transformative power being alone in our experience wants to be for each and every one of us. I ask you to reconsider your perspectives or even judgments on loneliness, emphasizing the interconnectedness of souls and the role of love in our lives. This episode navigates the intricate web of relationships, both with ourselves and others, and uncovers the hidden wisdom that emerges from life's challenges. This episode challenges you to embrace your humanness fully, to live intentionally, and to stay open to the profound lessons that are waiting, even in the darkest of times.
Last week I was called to talk about loneliness, and it feels like it simmered. This is big. And then that also came up that the feelings that you have may be big, but what if they weren't bad? You know, what if they were just big because there was this energy of the universe trying to move through a pinhole, and how that can feel in a human body. Like when you are trying to move and transmute and change and shift, because I think it was snake medicine last week too, which is all about transmutation. When you're being asked to change something from one way of being with it to, or one way for it to be one thing into another, it is physically and emotionally tasking. And our bodies are quite tiny in the realest sense in comparison to some of the energy and emotion we're asked to move and shift and transmute. So it kind of makes sense that there would be kind of a second opening to this. I want you to tune into you as an intention. And I don't know how that's going to land for you, but the vibe I get around it is when I hear that and I say, you know, tuning into you as an intention, like you came here. And I'm going to probably be talking about things that I hold to be true around spirit, self, life, death, and in no way am I trying to put that on you. I'm just trying to give it the context that I know and that I'm offered, and you do not have to agree with it. In fact, it is totally permissible and allowed for you to just be like, I don't get that, Keri-Anne. What about this? Because it's in those rough and rugged, ragged, jaggedy areas that it wants to take us. And it is this force of love, of unconditional love, of life that wants us to have this conversation. And so I just, you know, the empaths, the deep feelers, the helpers, and the healers, it's so tricky. It's so funny that I'm invited to speak to the most gentle-hearted, open lovers of the world that, like, we don't give ourselves the opportunity to be rough or combative or adverse or I don't get it, or to speak up, or to say the thing, or right? And so I understand what a big deal that is for me to even welcome, like ask you to use this place as a safe place to do that. I was talking to a dear friend and a client in a call today, and what was shown to me was almost like we are seeds of intention that are delivered, you know, at various points in the world, you know, in very different types of soil, right? And asked to grow, and we're invited to grow and express ourselves as an embodied intention of helping and healing and love. Like, let's just go right there to love, because all the reasons why we want to help and heal is because we want to we want to encourage more love, we want to release more love, we want to spread more love. And that sounds super hippy dippy and shit. And yet it is so rock solid, true core in the energy that I'm holding it right now. There's no room for laughing around it. Like, it's real. Like, that is real. And we are the ones that are willing to stay open amongst the worst of people's behavior. And what that means is that there is an inherent level of hurt that we are saying, that we said, okay, there's a worth it factor here. I am going to be exposed to a lot of humanity's blindness and their deafness and their inability to know or see or understand love. And I'm an invitation. I'm an embodied intention of love. And so I'm going to be put in the hands of maybe people that don't get it. I may be put in front of someone that doesn't get it. I may be put in the care of someone that doesn't get that. And I am, a part of my path will involve abuse. I mean, let's just call it abuse, being misunderstood, being used and abused. That definitely comes with the territory. And do I think that's okay? No, I don't think that's okay. I am also a traveler on that path of people that didn't get it. They don't get it. Some of them might get it eventually. Some of them do. And some of them do. And some of them take the invitation that we are. And they start taking a hoot off of what we know. They're like, hang on, you might be onto something here. Hang on. And then they take our hand and they walk with us. And there are many experiences that we are brought into where they don't take our hand. In fact, they do worse. They get mad at us because we're reminding them that they're not where we are, or that they don't see what we see. And a part of them knows that we know stuff, and they almost resent it. They almost resent that they can't see or be where we are because there's too many layers that they're walking around with, too many layers of cement, it feels like. And here we are acting as though it's just right there, that love, that openness, that innocent exchange of I'm here to just spread it, right? That's, I feel like how a lot of us came in, all right, I'm ready to go. Okay, this is real. Shit just got real once I realized I'm in a body. I got to work with these people, and having a very innocent experience of all of it at the same time, blinded in your own right. But there's a part of you underlying all of it that totally knows that this is no, we said yes to this. On some weird, fucked up level, we did. And I know a lot of us are like, why? Why would we do that? And it was in that image of the seed as an intention, almost with a mission, going through a tube through the ethos, through the space, and through the atmosphere down to where your parents were, or wherever you landed on the earth, and to say, here you go, you grow here. I want to even say you attempt to grow here, just to really honor what some people have experienced. Yeah, we need more love here. So go there. This is where and I do believe, after reading a lot of books that opened me up, but they only opened me up because I recognized it to be true, and Journey of Souls was one of them. So if you're curious about that vibe that I'm kind of talking about here, which is there's a real intention and a reason for almost everything. I want to say everything, but I don't want to be disrespectful to people that are like, what the fuck? How do you explain this? And how do you explain that? I understand the atrocities that are happening on the planet. I am not trying to love and light this shit. It's just real. I've just said this so much this week. When things are getting so real, and I don't know how you're hearing that, but how I'm feeling it is it's intense. It's real. This is real. And it's confronting. And it's confronting in this thing that we call loneliness, that this lonely feeling of being alone with our stuff as it arises, knowing that no one else is feeling it the same way we're feeling it. And we realize we really are essentially alone in our experience. Now, there's kind of a figure eight energy to this, okay? So yes, you are being given this very individual experience of loneliness. That's very real. You are in this body that looks just like this, at this age, at this time, with these number of kids or no kids, or this partner or no partner, or these parents or no parents. Like, it's just very individual and alone. And yet at the same time, you are walking alongside another soul that is having and sharing that exact experience. And in that, there is no longer loneliness. It's just whether or not we are connecting about those things. It's whether or not we're expressing those things to one another and letting shit be real between one another. We're invited in these lonely places to admit and to open and find out how and where we can connect with people. There's a new invitation every breath we take. I feel sometimes at the rate that things are changing lately, it feels like we're being initiated constantly, invited constantly, new vantage point. And I almost feel like I want to go down, which is kind of funny, because new vantage point, I often go, oh, we're up, because that's the good, right? To go up is good. I don't know. It just says new vantage point. It's feeling like this is where the real is. Things are real here. And they're showing me dark, How do I be with this? This is a new vantage point. This is I have new eyes, apparently a new willingness, because I wouldn't be saying it otherwise, would I? And that loneliness is saying, yes, there's an intention here for you to be alone with it, because it's yours. And there is this invitation for you to take full responsibility for that feeling, even if someone did something to take you there. There's this wanting to detach from, there's this encouragement to just be there. We don't care how you got there. Like, so many characters, this cast of characters that we're walking around with, they will send us sometimes blatantly into loneliness, and we wonder why, and we want to point a finger, and we want to say, you did this and you did that, and why, and rage, and a lot of us seem to have this innocent and innocent assumption woven in really kind of lightly, but my God, is that thread detrimental to us because it is tied to our value and our worth. And it suggests that the only reason I'm here is because I'm a piece of shit, or because I'm not good, or because they didn't want me, or because I'm not worthy to stick around for, or, you understand, or because I'm destined to be in this awful place. And it's in that innocent assumption, because we sit here and go, well, I mean, I'm the common denominator, aren't I? But I want you to sense into that. Like, wherever you go, there you are. So my invitation for you is to just let this work on you. Let this open up what it wants to open up. And if it doesn't, that's fine. This isn't for you then. This is around loneliness. There's loneliness in being the one who sees, in being the one who knows, in being the one that perhaps remembers why we are here, the one who came to help, the one who only knows how to be love by giving all of ourselves. To be left alone in that knowingness is a shock. And the voice comes up and says, but I thought I was doing it right. But I thought I did all the right things. I thought that there's phrases that come up. And one of the ones that came up was, it's like good things come to those who wait. And there are many others, right? Don't rock the boat, anyway. But I waited, the voice says, and I held the line. I was a good girl, basically. I was a good girl, and I got nothing back. I did all the things I thought I was supposed to come here and do and be, and I got nothing back but other people's bad behavior, or to be left alone. Like the shock of that. The child that did everything to please tried to fill in the cracks. It's like her noble job, what she came here to do, perhaps. The girl who let others go first and shine and never got seen. To the woman who gave all she had to help him see his value, his strength, his worth. And you could weave that into the mother that raises the children, that gives everything to them for them to see and be and do all the things that she did not get. And on some level, there can be left a feeling like that they all took what I had, they all took what I was, and they all take what I am. And then we're kind of left with this, what have I gotten wrong here? Like that's usually like, what did I get wrong here? I thought I was doing the right thing. And so we sit with that and we don't really get any answers. So then with the no answers, we're left with, well, if I didn't do anything wrong, then I must be wrong. And there's this innocent, that can even just land without us even having that discussion. I'm just being given words for these unspoken conversations that we can even have in ourselves. It's just like dust that lands on our skin, and all of a sudden it's there. Everything I thought that was good, that was supposed to be right, that I thought I should do, or that is true, isn't what I thought. And yet there's this fight. There's this fight that I'm so familiar with, but I'm not willing. We shout at the loneliness, at this confronting what the fuck. And I say, but I'm not willing to be anything other than I came here to be. Like, I'm not willing to be an asshole. I'm not willing to be cold-hearted or distant or cunning or manipulative or. I'm not willing to be anything other than what I perceive love to be. And that is a really tricky place to be. Because here's the other thing. So I've just sort of been writing a lot today. And it leads into this element, which is like, we're all walking around. We have to honor and take a deep breath in that we are each individually having a very individual experience, but we're all walking around with these set parameters, this idea of what love is, this idea, these set parameters, and I drew like a box, so to speak, just there's kind of like lines around it, that love is this and love isn't this. These rules and expecting that love can and should look and feel this way from my perspective. And so look at how the expectations that you have around love, how you think it looks, how you think it sounds, how you think it's supposed to be. Please look at that. Give yourself the gift of writing it all out. Demand it even. But you certainly should know what the expectations are that you're walking around with, to understand why it feels so tricky or tough to be here, because a lot of those may not be getting met. But to acknowledge them honors the fact that you're holding them. It honors the fact that you are walking around. But a lot of us will just go in love. I know what love is. And we use the word love, love, love. And I'm telling you, how I see love is going to be vastly different. There's going to be a few overlaps between what I see and what you see. But we absolutely get to see it in the way that we are seeing it. And we don't often slow down. And some people say, well, it's splitting hairs or dissecting things to death. And yet it's such a critical word. It's such a crucial, fundamental part of why we're here. And how do you see it now? Like, do you see it the same way now that you did when you were a child? And if so, that's fine. But how do you see it? Have you ever examined it? Have you ever explored it? And it's important. So it's just saying, like, we're all walking around with these rules, expecting that it should look this way. And the word "this" is so brought into that individual viewpoint. This way. So, by the way, like, go look at that. What's your way? What's this way for you? And that's important, because if you don't have awareness around that, you're going to walk around feeling maimed and kicked the shit out of and all sorts of things around love, if you're not really clear about what you think, how you think it should be. And often love, specifically love, it's only written, it's so hard to define, but often it's only perceived as good. And that was put in quotes. That there's no room, we don't leave any room for differences or adversity around love, because we believe love to always have a pleasant sounding voice. And that love is a beautiful face. And that love is soft or gentle and kind and compassionate, and like it's really good to unpack it. When you think of love, what do you expect and what do you believe to be true around it? What I have learned is that love is in everything. That love is diverse, and it can be found in the rough and the smooth. We often can't see the acts of love happening to us. In order to get us more in alignment with our truth or our core self, we would never assume or guess that love would ever want to take something away from us. We couldn't imagine that in a lot of ways. That's not how love works. That love would have a deeper, an agenda so deep that there's just no way we could ever consider that aspect of it. It had me write, sometimes the walls need to crumble, things need to go away, or we need to leave. Because what we thought we were investing in that wall or in that belief system around what we thought love was or is, was actually a cage that kept us small, not realizing the other thing that love is, that wants us to experience it. We don't give love a whole lot of spectrum. I'm going to give an example of this, and I'm feeling super emotional. A few months before my father died, and we had no idea it was coming, a friend of mine, I was talking with a friend of mine, and she's an intuitive, and this didn't happen very often, but she would all of a sudden blurt things to me that were kind of coming through to her. And she was, I really respected her gift, and I respect her. And she started expressing to me how difficult it was for my mother to be here in the world. And she said her breathing was being labored, and it was so silent in the room when we were talking. It was like, and she had me feel how difficult it was for my mother to be here. And she said, I'm not kidding, Keri-Anne. It's like every breath, every step, every waking moment, it is a struggle for her to be here. And I knew that to be true. I knew that to be true, and it scared me. And I assumed, I was like, okay, she's on her way out. I got to prepare. I have to prepare. I don't know how she's going to leave. I don't know if she's going to choose to leave. My feeling was that she was going to choose to leave. And on some weird level, I just made that assumption. I was like, okay, yeah, so brace yourself. And I just found myself being with my mom in a new way, like honoring how difficult it was for her to be here. And my father was still alive, and he was trying to support her, and she was having so many physical issues and emotional issues. And my mom has carried a lot. She has carried and gone through so much. I have so much reverence for her life. And so I was like, okay, that's a sign. I'll start preparing. And, internally. And so I chose to show up a little bit differently, making space and room for that. And also grieving a little bit in advance, making this assumption. And then when my dad went like that, and we were all just like, there's trauma, there's shock, there's what the hell. There was so much like swirling around, like we did. It was like the craziest plot twist. We did not see that coming. And I think we were all worried about that, like what will happen to her now, because he was everything to her. That 3 days later, I've talked about this before. He came to me in my room, and I had the craziest experience where he started turning things on and off in the room, and I was filled with this intense cold energy, but not scary cold. It was almost like Vicks Vapor Rub. It was like an element of Vicks Vapor Rub, like cool energy, which he appreciates because he always used that word, cool. Anyway, and he filled me up. He had me filled up with this energy that it felt like a fire hose. It felt like every breath I took, I was just filled again, like to the point where it actually felt like I was going to burst. And he seemed to think that was quite funny. And he was holding this really expansive, joyful, giddy energy that I couldn't compute, but he held me. I was being held in this weird chamber where I couldn't fight with his energy. I was accepting. I was told to accept it. It was like, there's not even telling. You're going to feel this. We're going to make you feel this, which is so opposite to what I should have been feeling. And so that was it was disarming. So it was just putting me in this chamber of feeling that expansiveness and that, look what I can do. And like, oh my God, like, isn't this fun? And isn't this cool? And I just surrendered to it. And I was like, because by the way, I had no choice. There was no choice there for me. And I just met him where he was. And I was like, Dad, that's so great. Like, I'm so happy for you. And it was like a distant part of me was like, what the hell? It wasn't close enough to even touch it. So I was just like, yeah, okay, we'll talk later. Like, we'll talk later about how messed up this is. But I was like, wow, it's amazing. And like, God, and I actually felt proud. And I was like, kind of like, like, look, it's like watching a kid at a recital. Like, it had that feeling like watching a little kid at a recital. And you're just like, yeah, look at you go. And God, that's so great. Now, what the hell? Like, how can I say this? But it's true for me. And he impressed upon me the reason he left, because I had all these questions. Why? And he said, everything is as it should be. And he left me with this understanding that on a soul level, him and my mom have been like, they chose each other for a reason. He for her, her for him. And there were these agreements that they had made. And he told me in no uncertain terms that he was pretty complete in his life. He was kind of like, I was pretty complete. Everything was pretty complete. Content. He had me feel content, solid. All loops were closed. He really left nothing kind of undone. And he said, so doesn't it make sense? Like, I hope it makes sense to you why I had to go. I had to go so that your mom had a chance. And then he had me realize, like, feel into the fact that he was sort of saying, if I stayed around, we would have kept that dance of codependency. Are you okay? No, 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 are you? And that was where they were for ages. They weren't going anywhere. They were just stayed there, And he's like, at least I know that if I go, your mom will be put into a corner of loneliness, or an aloneness that will challenge her and ask her to either show up, she will have to choose. And this is not an easy decision, but can you see that if I don't go, she's never going to actually have a chance. It will always be back and forth, no further ahead, and always stuck in that place. And I couldn't believe, like, the romance around that, like the love. I never knew that we could operate like that. That people would do things or say things or leave us in various forms, not to want I've had friends leave marriages that have said, no counseling, no nothing. I just know. And it's left the other person completely devastated. They knew that they weren't good for that person. They knew that the learning was complete. The other person didn't. And how holy it was, because I got to watch, not only through those experiences, but through my father, him leaving as the last, most deepest, incredible gesture. That act, that last final act of just, I can give you this. That we would actually give our life to help save another soul, to help them have the experience that they came here to have. If you haven't picked the route, if you haven't taken the opportunity that keeps being presented to you, my God, the things we will do. Children will be born and they will leave in order to wake us up and challenge us and put us in a corner. My first pregnancy was that. That being came into my life. And to receive that is dismantling, because how to be loved so much that a soul would be like, you know what? I got you. I'm going to come in and I'm going to open you up and I'm going to crack you open and I'm going to have you say and do things that you never would do if I hadn't been there. And then I am going to go. And I hope you can tune into the other thing that I am, other than loss and devastation and pain and that you're to blame or any of that shit. Like, they pray and they hope that you expand to the point where you could consider that there's something else there for you. And some people would just kind of put me in a box and say, well, you're such a positive thinker. And I'm like, there's nothing positive about me seeing that. It's just that I'm open to what else it might be, because I've chose at some point, or something had me choose, that I would no longer stay in that section that has us consider that we are the common denominator. So we are the thing that is bad or unworthy or not okay. It would never let me stay there. I watched other people in my life live and die there, and they are continuing to live and die there. In that cyclical, it must be me, I must be to blame, I'm a piece of shit. And they just scream at us, that is never, your worth and your value are never up for negotiation. This is all about experience and expansion and your willingness to open up to the love that wants you to express it. And it doesn't always look like a nice, tidy, quiet, silent, gentle, deer like existence. It just doesn't. It's not just at that end of the spectrum. Love is big and it's bold and it's fierce and it does things and it burns things down and it takes things away for you to be with you, the vessel that all of the universe wants to move through, that your intention wants to move through, that your next opening, that your next creation, that your next thing from often is a pile of shit. Like I've said this before, that the most amazing things grow in shit. And there's just this wish that we could surrender everything at the door, by emptying our pockets. I said this this came up the other day on a call, like emptying your pockets about what you believe is happening, and then examine it and open up to what else it might be, especially if your self-worth or value is on the table, up for discussion. Like asking, what else could this be? If it is not that, what else might this be trying to show me? Is it is it initiating me by, sorry. I need a tissue. Boy, when I said yes to this, by sometimes inviting us to behave badly, what we would perceive to be behaving badly. And we have issues with making boundaries and saying no. I mean, look at all of that. To say no means being mean or bad or harsh. To be truthful means you're a bitch. I mean, really? Really? No wonder we don't get to move anything. We have all these fucking rules about everything. I used to think to be truthful meant to be awful, mean, harsh. I would lose everything and everyone. I didn't realize I could be truthful and honest from my own perspective and also stay open to the fact that other people aren't going to see it that way. Where it's neutral all of a sudden. It isn't about them needing to get it. It's about me needing to say with myself first and foremost, this is how I see things. But then considering you to be of value to have that conversation with. Like we often look outside of ourselves to say, I need to be validated, or I need to have someone else say that it's okay or not okay. And we overlook the container of self that we are to even say, I don't know, I don't want to lose the power here, but it's just like everywhere you go, there you are. And yet we're like, yeah, she's always here. Anyway, like, what does that even look like? What does it even look like? And it looks a lot simpler. We always try to make it look so much harder than it actually is. We just think, oh, that's nothing. Like, that's a nothing burger. I thought that it would be some more ceremonial, ostentatious like thing where I would finally be in the arms of myself and we're making out or whatever. I don't know, but you know what I mean? And it's quite simple. And we don't slow down and examine or relish in our own experiences and release it enough to realize that in the beingness of feeling our feelings, in the beingness of admitting our shit, in the beingness, it's all happening in that moment. There's nothing to do. There's something about being in the process that is love and loving. And I want you to open up to that. And wouldn't it make sense to like be alone in it? Because they don't want to, there we go. They don't want you to dilute it. They don't want you to think, oh, that only happened because Sally was there. That only happened because so-and-so. You know what, do you see? So loneliness is an incredible invitation to have a sacred experience with yourself. So when I'm in session with somebody, I am hoping, and I try my damnedest, to make sure that they understand that the sacredness is with them. I am a witness, but please do not put the amazingness that you experience or the expansion that you experience or the learning you receive have more to do with me being there than you being the one that's willing to process or be in it. And I understand the desire to thank or to say, oh, and I say, you're welcome. And by the way, I say thank you because as you expressed your truth, you were working on yourself and I was worked on also. There is no such thing as a one-sided rescue. Yeah, that non-dilution is very important. And yet we perceive loneliness to be a punishment. We perceive loneliness to be proof of something. They're saying, knock it off. Like they love you. There's a love here and it says, stop. Can you see it as something else, as an invitation, as yes, it's hot. Somebody said the other day, how do I step into loneliness? It feels really hot for me. Meet it exactly where it's at, is what I said. Let it know that you're scared and that you're not sure and that you're apprehensive and that and ask what you need. Get your journal, get your pen, call a friend, have someone that knows how to hold space and say, I just want to talk about something. I want to talk about this, what it is for me. Can you hold this space for me? And if you can't, I'm telling you, writing, typing on your computer and say, listen, loneliness, I'm freaked out. You feel really hot. You feel really big. You feel really dark. And I don't understand the darkness. I want you to start being willing to give it a child's voice. Because we are all being brought into these very innocent, the more simple and innocent and like childlike, there's so much more to be gained than trying to figure out how it's going to go or where it's going to go or what it has for us. That's that daring, like that unknowing, like I don't know where this is going to go. And I only speak from multiple personal experiences of being baptized by these lonely processes. Still give yourself permission to be in that process, in that purging process. And then ask, what's important for me to know about what just happened? Is there anything that feels like I need to like make sense of it? And if you don't get anything, then just be really proud, feel proud that you just did that. You just moved some serious energy. Emotions are energy that we're carrying. And sometimes we have no idea where it comes from or any of that. And man, is it a lonely experience. But there's something sacred that wants to be brought into that wants you to trust it a little bit more. Love wants you to know its full spectrum. And if you haven't exorcised or play on words there, if you haven't exorcised, like The Exorcist, or exercised or practiced it in another way, then there is an invitation, because sometimes the most loving thing we can do, the most loving thing we can be, is angry, is fierce, is loud, is, and that you couldn't be in safer hands to explore that with you or with another. Oftentimes we think we have to do this in front of someone for them to get it or for them to understand. And it is often never really that. It is more that we really want to understand it more. And we are the ones that want to receive it and to love ourselves more as a result of expressing it. Because no one outside of us is ever really going to understand. And I don't mean that to break your heart. There's a pragmatic reality that wants to just be like, listen, that side-by-sideness, it wants you to, we kind of hold ourselves and others in contempt, is what I'm getting. That they aren't loving us the way we think they should or could, or we aren't loving in the way we think we should or could. That it's okay. Like, I don't think we give ourselves permission for that to be okay, for us to decide that we've given enough or that the learning is done. We find it, because we came here to love, we find it really hard to give ourselves, to know that love can be saying no more. To know that love can, it's like that container that we make around love. That's why it's important to examine it, because in designing this container that we've given love, we've unknowingly applied rules to it. We've agreed to it. We've said, oh, I agree to this. And I'm sorry, but that deserves examining every now and then. We don't give ourselves room to grow or change or evolve in our life or with our life. And that as we grow and change, our perceptions and our ideas around things, they grow and change too. But without re-examining it, we don't know, oh, that doesn't belong here anymore. I once believed that love was to give everything of myself. I once totally thought, no, that's what you do. I actually thought that love was putting my hand out and whoever wanted to take it next, oh, they love me, then this is love. I literally thought that. I made a real assumption that, well, he said he loves me, so I guess this is it. This is love. Okay, okay, all right, this is it. And I know it to be something different now. But that had to go through many lonely moments, being in relationship with somebody and being alone in myself. So we sit here and think, well, partner or a parent, someone that is in the foxhole with me, this will make it all better. And sometimes I've never felt lonelier. I've never felt lonelier in those unmet places. And it says, can you just, they're wanting to sort of clean up that expectation and judgment of what others really are for us, of what others are supposed to do for us, that we can innocently and unknowingly burden relationships with those assumptions and expectations, and we kill it in the process, and we don't even know we've had a part in it. But we're in partnership with everything. We're in relationship with everything. So there's a weaving in and out of like them and us, and like what we are willing to own. This is the Herod medicine. What are we willing to take responsibility for? Our reactions, our assumptions, our expectations. It wants us to, but not with blame or shame, just with clarity. Like, I was with somebody this week and they said something and they used it in judgment. They were like, I do this and I do this and I do this, and like with this expectation of other people kind of wanting to give back to them, like because I do all these things, I expect them to do this. And it was just so honest and lovely. I loved it. And yet then this wave of judgment, not only on them for not meeting the need, but then this last sentence was, and I don't do any of that for myself, And so then there was now judgment on self. So you're screwed, damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of vibe. And I said, can we repeat that sentence? But repeat it with shoulders down, no judgment, actually literally pragmatic, like as if that sentence, this was quite funny. What if that sentence wanted to inform you, not make you right, wrong, good or bad? What if it was like just so clean? It was just a truth. And so we repeated the sentence, wow, I do this and I do this and I do this. So I do this. I do these things for others. Yeah. And they don't know how to, or they da. And so then there's another okay, so these are all facts. Now these are just facts kind of wanting to be put on the table. And the very last one, instead of it being, and I don't do any of that for myself, and by the way, I don't really do any of that for myself. So see how there's a different tone? And it's funny because it's what I was sort of shown in that is that spirit, your higher self, the universe that wants to move through a pinhole, it's like constantly it's moving that wisdom through you. And then in the layers that it has to permeate to get to you, it does get mired and all mucked up with the judgment and the expectations. And so by the time we say it, it's just like dripping with shit. It's dripping with burden. It's dripping with like blame and shame. And I said, okay, well, can we just repeat that sentence? And what if that sentence just wanted to inform me of some facts that are playing out in my life right now? Oh, I tend to do this a lot. Yes, that's true. Okay, I can just see it. So it's just saying, just see it. And then in the end, it's like, oh, and by the way, all the things that you expect from other people, yeah, you also don't do that for yourself. It's just saying, will you just see this soup? What if it had nothing to do about you being an asshole or you being good, right, wrong, or bad, or them being good, right, wrong, or bad, and it just being a collection of facts that are like, oh, and what I always take from that is like, well, no wonder things are so fucked up. No wonder this is really hard right now. We're all trying, kind of doing our own thing and seeing it from different vantage points, but no one's seeing the connective, the opportunities here. No one's seeing the opportunity to own the fact that maybe I could start doing those things for myself. Maybe I could put more responsibility on myself for, instead of waiting for other people to give me those things, what would that even look like? And that's a whole nother conversation, isn't it? It is a whole nother, and it all wants to come from a clean statement, but often when we're blurting our shit out, it's blurted out in judgment and it's dripping with all sorts of expectation and shit. And that is therapeutic in its own right, don't get me wrong, but stay open to the other that is being talked about also, that I'm trying to introduce or invite here. It's a yes, there's judgment, and it's also could be just stated as a statement. And by the way, we're trying to help you see why things are so tricky right now, without it being about you being to blame or them being to blame. It's like, look at all the moving parts and pieces here. You're trying, you're wanting this feeling, but you're dealing with your stuff, and then you're dealing with someone else's stuff. And how much can you control that? And how much can, so it's wanting to humble us in the mess a little bit, if only for us to forgive ourselves for having such a difficult, tricky time, Yeah, this is hard being human. Yeah, this is hard walking around with all these beliefs, roles, rules, responsibilities. And it just says, start where you are. Work with the first layer. Allow it to be expressed and allow it to be explored, and allow yourself to be expanded as a result of those first two things. To know more, to fact find, to just, what if we started doing that instead of you always wondering where it's going to go or where it's going to take you or if it's going to fix the thing that you think is broken. When there really is nothing broken, there is kind of just a flourishing that wants to happen from truth. But often we won't give ourselves permission to do that. And I just feel like I'm this tiny cog in the wheel that is saying, can we please allow for more permission for this to happen? Because I understand the intention and the bigness of it, I am just more willing to be uncomfortable, more often than the average person, because I have an inherent trust with it and I'm building a relationship with it on that. And I do not expect that of other people. I know I am in this for a long time, you know. And however I was meant to go through it was pretty intense. And I said yes to all the invitations that were given to me. And that meant a lot of revealing, a lot of unzipping, a lot of stripping down, which was super uncomfortable. And something underneath all of it was saying, it's going to be okay. Wait for it. You'll see. There's more to come. There's more to come. Don't worry about it. You know, like just holding me in that space. And so it is of privilege. It's from a privileged place that I get to speak from. I understand that. You know, and there's no assumption that everyone's supposed to understand that. But I know I'm supposed to speak about it, you know, from as many aspects and parts of the spectrum that I can. But you got it. I would say most people are really uncomfortable with emotions. Do you want to know how we see them? We think that we're going to die. We think that that cracking open may be metaphorical to some, but it is fucking life or death for not just us as a human being sometimes, to be overtaken, to be overpowered often. How we perceive it. If we have issues with emotions, this is why they say, please go in and examine the relationship and the things you hold around emotions, or allowing yourself to feel things, because you're going to understand why it's so tricky for you. Instead of it being about blaming or shaming, just lay the facts out. Oh, I see it like this. I think that I might die. I think that I'll be overtaken. I feel like people will take advantage. I think that da-da-da. If only, without looking for a fix, if only to go, no wonder this is so hard. Do you see it? Do you feel the forgiveness in that statement? And forgiveness is a funny word because I know it's very triggering for some people, but it's like it's allowing it to be as difficult as it is. Like it's saying, yeah, no wonder. So maybe I shouldn't give myself such shit for this being hard. Because look at all the weight I have on that interaction. Look at how I've burdened this experience. Like I've completely put so much on it, life or death, man. Like, and if, just to allow it to be in the space. Listen, man, we have every right to say things to people. Don't get me wrong. We have every right to say it. Where it gets messed up is when we expect them to change as a result of us saying it. Okay, that is real talk. It's noticing the attachments that we have. If I tell them that I'm going to feel better, if we believe that to be true, and by the way, sometimes we do, but it's in the hope. Sometimes we'll say things to people in the hopes that they'll pick up what we're putting down and say, gosh, I never knew, I never saw, and have this like light beam moment of, now I know, and then redemption. And often we're met with defense and fight, and we're like, that is not how I wanted that to go. And so when you can step into those conversations, having your back and knowing that, what am I hoping to happen as a result of this? This unhooks the element of manipulation is what I call it, because I definitely went through a phase of like, if I say this, they're going to say that, and that will feel good. And like, here I am, this puppet master of the situation, whether it was to hope to get to what I want or to help control a situation to make sure that I'm more comfortable or others are even more comfortable. Like, yes, like, like just, it's sick. It was sick for me to admit that, God, on some level, I could totally agree that maybe I was doing that. And to step into, if it does feel important for me to say it in front of them, because absolutely we get that. If we feel we need it and we want it, leave no stone unturned. Honest to God, there are people doing things in this life that I think are atrocious in some ways, and like as a coaches, like in particular, I was talking about one the other day that I'm like, that is unbelievable to me. There's like, yeah. Anyway. And on a soul level, I'm like, wow, like she's that person over there that gets to do and say whatever they want and be aggressively obnoxious around this thing, or be like really kind of hurtful. And I'm like, wow, she really is going for it. Like, and she's daring to get rid of everything, but yet she's not. She's making money hand over fist and all sorts of things. And then that does make part of you go like, why, that sucks, like there's people that are really earnest in their work and like they're playing it nice or whatever. And they're just, or we think we're doing the right thing, and we can't be any other way. I'm not willing to be that. I'm not willing to be sensational or parade people's pain around to make people afraid into working with me. You know, if you don't work with me, you're going to wreck everything, you know? And yet there's part of me that's like, wow, she's really giving herself permission to do that. And yeah, she's really burning some bridges, and some people she's connecting with, and I don't know if she's helping them or not. But anyway, the point is, I'm trying to say, is you get to sort of, that's where people say, well, that's reckless and shit. But they're like, you absolutely get to do and say what you think you need to do and say. But just understand there's going to be natural consequences. Like, and if you're willing to ride those consequences out, meaning not everyone's going to like it, you may get backlash. And if it's worth it because you feel like it was good for me to say that, that felt good. I felt like I gave me something. If it feels like it gave you something, keep it. And then if you can forgive all the other stuff, if you can sleep with that, I'm sorry, but I have definitely stepped into that, and it has totally been worth it. I've said and done things that people were like, that was just mean or not okay or whatever. And I'm like, I know that wasn't, but there was something that was really important about that for me. And I had to make a judgment call quickly. And I've actually gone back and said, I am sorry, but there was something more going on that you helped facilitate. And actually in the end, they were like, oh, wow, my God, I didn't realize, like, you know, that's how messed up this and awesome this can be. But yeah, it's just, sorry, I don't know if that was a long-winded answer, but yeah, like we absolutely get to share, but from our perspective, not you do this and you do that and you're to blame for my feelings. But like when you do this, I have absolutely been put in this situation, but if you're the one listening to your own words and digesting them and putting value on your side of the fence versus lobbing your value over the fence for them to do something with, that is when we leave ourselves and we open ourselves up for someone else picking us up like a cat toy and being like, dude, you know, and that is not on the table. That is like, that wants to be done. So the power wants to be kept in self. And keep the value close, keep your cards close. But you absolutely get to be able to say, oh, I got a hand here. And I'm going to tell you what that hand is, but I'm keeping it close. I'm not putting my cards on the table, but you will hear about them. So there's something about that there. I don't know if that helps. So if y'all want a card, I will do a card because I feel like it completes things. Man, oh my God. Just shut the front door. Heaven sent. Heaven sent 33. Okay. Message received, Dad. You know, Spirit has a wicked sense of humor, I'll tell you that. And we should really stay open to it because it is ridiculous and it's crazy and it's so unexpected. All the things that I've suggested here. Okay. Just as we receive gifts in the physical world through the thoughtfulness of others to acknowledge how much we mean to them, so too we receive gifts on other levels, including the spiritual level. A spiritual gift is something that happens through grace. You're going to laugh along with me, right? We can ask for help, and it may be given in response to that request. All requests for help are answered. A spiritual gift can also be given without asking for anything at all, at least not consciously. While we are busy getting on with our to-do lists, we don't often stop to think about what our hearts might need. If we do, and an immediate solution is not obvious, we just get on with life, either letting the issue be or taking the more painful option of dwelling on it without seeing how it might be resolved. My glasses on. I'm going to surrender to age here. Here we go, that's better. However, there's a loving benevolence in life that knows exactly what we need and how it can best come to us, even when we're not quite so clear. This force actively seeks to assist us in walking our life path. That loving sweetness is being offered to you now, or soon will be in the form of a spiritual gift. Your spiritual gift may be symbolic. It may be something that seems ordinary, but holds a lot of meaning to you. It might be an object that catches your eye and mesmerizes you. You might think you're appreciating just how lovely something looks, but it's in the underlying energy that captures you. Something in the appearance, perhaps, the color or the shape speaks to you and is perhaps answering an unspoken prayer. It's not the object that's the gift. That is just the wrapping. The actual gift is subtle, yet effective empowerment. It is like a spiritual booster shot that helps you move forward in life with additional zing, some extra strength, and perhaps a greater peace. You will be empowered to accomplish tasks that you may have nearly but not quite been able to manage on your own through the bestowal of this spiritual gift. The spiritual gift may or may not be recognizable to you. It may be very obvious: an offer, a windfall, a trip, a friendship, a new lover, or a remarkable healing in a current relationship. It might be far from more subtle and even more powerful, such as a jolt of energy that allows you to perceive things differently on all of a sudden and perhaps solve a problem that has been plaguing you. It will be bestowed as and when it's needed in the form that will best serve you, in love. This oracle also brings you the message: let yourself be helped. Assistance is coming your way, so act on it and say yes. If you've also drawn the oracle card of collaborative dreaming, then this message is amplified. It's very significant, as the assistance is coming from the hand of life itself, so trust it. This oracle also comes with a message that you are to trust in the things that you feel and say to others without knowing why. It moves them. You might not understand, but through trust, you are allowing yourself not to overthink and censor yourself. As such, you are able to become a vessel through which the spiritual gift can be passed on to others. Don't block yourself. Let life happen through you. Only benefit can come from this. If you have drawn any other card in addition to this one, it will act as a wild card or an amplifier. Whenever you draw the Oracle of Heaven Sent in addition to another card, the universe really wants your attention. It's saying, look, love is speaking to you directly here. Pay attention. Really feel the truth of what's being said and trust it. You are being helped right now. It's simple to receive the gift that is headed your way. The healing process below will activate that for you. The healing process is as follows. Say or think very clearly aloud, through unconditional love, I now accept the spiritual gifts bestowed upon me. With complete trust and gratitude, so be it. And the other thing that I get as I read that card is that we often think spiritual gifts are in the form of niceties. And I have been on the receiving end and the giving end of being a catalytic gift on a spiritual level to people that has shaken things up and shaken things out. And you are no different in your conversations and interactions with people. If it's time to speak up and out, it is time to speak up and out. Maybe it's time for things to get messy. Maybe it's time for you to make a mess or be a mess. And know that there is sacredness and love in all of it. Love for yourself and love for the other person. Yeah. So with that, I send you so much gratitude and love. Just thank you so much.